You're listening to Surviving and Thriving with Renisha, a podcast about life, mental health, and personal growth. Here I talk about my journey living with borderline personality disorder, depression, and anxiety, and how I'm learning to love myself despite it. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who are new, I am Riri of JustRere Shop, and this is Surviving and Thriving. I am on video. It's Sunday, so I just had like a little bit of a little Sunday reset after pretty like busy, kind of hectic week, kind of stressful, but also fun. A little bit of a mixed bag type of week. And I just washed my hair, so I have like a towel around my neck and I'm not really dressed up. And I got my mango peach smoothie that I just made. And we're just chilling. It's Sunday. We're relaxing. We're chilling. And I'm happy to be here back with you guys today. And today I want to talk about something, and I know I feel like I say this a lot, but something that keeps coming up for me, which is the healing trap and just learning to invite more play and fun into life, especially if you're someone who, like me, struggles with mental health issues and you've been in like this recovery journey, or you've been on like a specific journey, like spiritual journey, recovery journey, self-improvement, whatever it is, right? But sometimes we can get in this trap of being so focused on processing emotions and self-improvement and healing that we forget to just live and be in the present moment and just enjoy it when we have the opportunity to enjoy it. And I've gotten to a place in my recovery, my healing now, where I feel like I can feel joy and I can like have fun. And this is after years of being so severely depressed that you get kind of apathetic. If you've experienced like severe depression, or if you get like BPD depression or bipolar depression, then you know what I'm talking about. But you get apathetic and you become numb, and especially if you've been on like medications. Like I used to take mood stabilizers, I used to take antidepressants, I've taken antipsychotics, and all of those drugs not only didn't really help me, but they made me feel very numb. They made me feel zombied out. I had a lot of like really terrible side effects too, which I've talked about in previous episodes. But I couldn't experience the intensity of my emotions, which I thought was good. But then I realized I can't experience like joy, right? And now I'm at a place where I've been off medication for like, I would say like over a year, I think now. It's been some time. Like I stopped medication a while ago, and this was after talking to like a psychiatrist about it, and after exploring like a lot of different modes of therapy. Like I've mentioned before, I've taken like DBT twice, I've taken CBT, all of those things, and it just wasn't working for me. I know it works for some people. It wasn't working for me, so I stopped, and I really wanted to explore a more holistic healing experience. And so that's kind of what I'd been doing. That's the path I chose to take, and it's been working for me. But now I feel like I'm at a place where, like, I think the severity of the depression has lifted a lot, and I can experience joy, but I feel like I am always a little bit. I'm just, because I have that self awareness and because I've spent so many years doing all the work, I'm always anxious that I'll go into another like really severe episode. And just for more context, for those of you who might be new or might be seeing me for the first time, I do have borderline personality disorder and severe anxiety and depression. I also identify as neurodivergent. Um, my son is on the spectrum. I do think it runs on my side of the family, but a lot of people on my side of the family don't have access and resources to support. Like one of the few that do. So it's been really tricky trying to get, assessed for things like autism and all of those things, but I digress. Um, but I have a history of having very severe episodes, and I've been hospitalized patient 4 times, and I am also a survivor. And so I often really worry that I will get back to that point, and I have a lot to lose. I'm remarried, I have a son. Um, I'm trying to like grow my own, business. I'm also like working and I have clients and I just have a lot of responsibilities. I don't have family to fall back on. I've not had support from family in that way. I've never had support from family financially, that's for sure. So I can't afford to like get back to that place where I felt like I was really losing a lot. Um, and it's unfortunate that you know, it is hard to find support. And if you do have support, then that's such a blessing. But that's not the case for everybody who has like mental health issues or who identifies as neurodivergent or have like these issues. So for me, it's a huge fear because I was at a point in my life where I felt like I was losing everything when I was at my lowest. And I'm often afraid to get back there. And I think a part of me hyperfixating, I would say, on like healing and self-improvement is that fear of like I don't want to get back to that point. Um and I'm always reminded by like the great people that I've been meeting that you know what you know now and you've experienced what you experience now. So like you're only going up even if it doesn't always feel that way, and healing isn't linear. So I've been lucky that I've had good people come into my life and like constantly remind me that I am on that trajectory, but it still doesn't take away that fear, right? And so I have gotten into this trap of like just being so hyper focused on self improvement and over processing and overthinking and kind of complicating in a way my healing journey. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that in case that's something any of you resonate with. I do think that it's becoming a common, I don't want to use the word issue, but it can be an issue. I think everything should be balanced, everything in moderation, and that includes the things that we consider healthy or good. I think that we should all be striving to improve and become the best versions of ourselves, right? But what happens with that is that when you are hyper fixating on the things that you need to work on, you're not present in what's happening around you in the current moment. You're not present with those circumstances. And in my case, like there had been times where I was definitely falling into the trap of toxic positivity and just trying to brush off anything that was challenging, which I also think, and I've learned throughout my recovery, that's not healthy. That's not healthy. You have to process all your emotions, and so that's why I'm such a huge advocate for actually taking the time to like feel what you need to feel, even if it's shitty, because it's necessary, right? You have to get through it, and it's there ultimately to teach you something. Like something's coming up for a reason, and so it's just an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, and that's the perspective that I kind of have on that now. But I've also come to realize that, for me as someone with BPD, like I've always tend to hyperfixate. I don't necessarily want to say this is like a strictly BPD trait. I do also identify as someone who's neurodivergent. So I think there are multiple reasons why I am kind of like predisposed to do that, to hyperfixate on things. Um, and I do think part of it is like a coping mechanism too. But I I feel like because I'm always hyperfixating on how I need to improve, on being self-aware, on healing, on like deepening my relationship to myself and to spirit, I it's almost for me another form of disassociation. And I know like right now, especially a lot of stuff is floating around the internet about spiritual psychosis. And that's a whole different topic. Something I have experience with psychosis from a like mental health perspective. And so when you disassociate or when you go into psychosis, it's like you're splitting off from reality. And for those like myself who have like a lot of severe trauma and childhood trauma, like I do, it's like your brain's way of coping. It's subconscious most of the time. You're not even like consciously choosing to do this. It's your brain's way of protecting you because the brain is incredible and it does a lot of amazing stuff to protect you. And I'm just going to pause and say, I am not a psychiatrist or a doctor or anything. This is all, everything I'm sharing is what I've learned from my experience in therapy and with psychiatrists and on my own mental health and spiritual journey. It's not at all professional. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, and always go and do your own research. But yes, I have been told by professionals that it's a way that our brain like kind of adapts and copes with a significant amount of trauma. And I have a lot of complex trauma from my upbringing. So I realized at a certain point on this healing journey that I was kind of using healing and using self improvement as a way, another way to distract myself, to disassociate. And I wasn't aware that I was doing it, but it was another thing that I was hyper fixating on to the point to where I wasn't fully present. And I think that it's good, again, to be focused on self improvement, but you need to have a balanced approach. And I think it's important that in that approach, you're making space for what is, what's actually happening currently around you. Because a lot of the things that we feel like we're experiencing, and I don't want this to sound dismissive at all, but it is really in our brain. It's our interpretation of the circumstances, it's our interpretation of the emotions, it's our interpretation of the interactions and how we process it and how we like kind of analyze it in our heads. And if we're doing that all the time, then we're not really fully there with ourselves or with people around us, or like just able to really be in that moment. And being present is something I've always struggled with, always. I've disassociated since I was a child. And in my worst parts of my like BPD and mental health issues, I've completely lost touch with reality. When I've been like hospitalized and needed a lot of support, I've completely lost touch with reality. And it's a scary, scary place to be in. And so it's a place that I don't want to go back to. And so having that realization has helped me learn to get to a place where I can be present, but I can also find space for play and joy and feeling safe in the present moment. Because I think ultimately, when we do that, when our coping mechanism is to like always be processing or always be in our heads or overthinking, or even if it's like coming from a place of trying to improve and get better and feel better, if we're always in our minds and we're not in the present moment, it's because we don't necessarily feel safe or comfortable in the present moment. And so that's something that we have to work on, right? So that's something I've been working on. And um I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of paranoia. My paranoia used to be like really, really, really bad. It's gotten a lot better, I would say. I feel safer. Um, but my family has like gone through some things that have really left me really paranoid. If you're just discovering this and you maybe don't know, but I've shared in previous episodes, and just trigger warning because my whole life has been traumatic. So I'm just going to put a trigger warning right now. Um, but when I was young, my sister was murdered. It's a reason why, like, I think my family is like so into true crime too. And like why it's something I've like gone to. And I'm sorry, this is like a little bit of like a side tangent. But it's also why like I kind of had to like step back from that community, because a lot of people in the true crime community are very like unempathetic. Like I don't think people realize these are like real families and real victims that they're talking about, and it's not just entertainment. And so sometimes the way people talk about murders and things that happen, it's very callous and comes across as if they don't really care about the victim's family. And so as someone who's like my family has experienced crazy, terrible, it's just a terrible experience to live through. Um, and I don't think I realized how much it impacted me. But there was like a lot of things that happened after that as well to my family. And I that coupled with like just some of the relationships that I had in the past that weren't so great, and just the amount of women in my life who've been in like abusive relationships, and just all of these really traumatic and stressful experiences, it led me to being very paranoid and not trusting anyone, because the man who took my sister's life was like someone who literally worked where she lived. And so I think my trust in people from that situation, but also just a lot of the other relationships and things in my life, it is non-existent. Like, it's something I've been really working on, is learning how to like really allow people in and trust people, but I have a lot of paranoia because of it. And so my nervous system is so out of whack, and my baseline for anxiety is really, really, really high. And so eh, it's been it's been really hard for me to be present in the moment and to feel safe in the present moment. And so lately, now that my depression has lifted, I'm finally like getting to the point. I'm sorry, I've like gone in circles, but yeah. But I'm finally getting to the point to where I feel like the depression is not as severe. I have recently been in a depressive episode, so it's been a little harder, but noticeably better than in like years past. Like, noticeably better. Like, I can function, I can like still laugh, and I'm not like completely numbed or apathetic. I just notice when my energy is a little lower, or I'm like a little bit more irritable. So like I'm able to like recognize those fluctuations and like take the proper steps now. But now that I have noticed that difference, I'm trying to find more ways, like intentionally, to bring more fun and joy into my life, and like really nurture and take time to what am I trying to say? Take time to really allow my inner child to be fulfilled. And so, one, I think that this is important because if you're like me and you don't necessarily feel like safe in the present moment, or you feel uncomfortable, whether it's because of your circumstances, whether it's just in your mind and you have a history of trauma, and so feeling safe in the present moment is hard, or whether it's like, even if you're not trying to, it's just a symptom, it's something you live with, is that you tend to zone out, you tend to disassociate, um then this could be a good practice for you. And it is a practice, it's something you have to like intentionally do, right? So I've been trying to like, I think over the past few years, I've really just been studying myself as I am now, because with trauma healing, a big part of it is like rediscovering who you are. And my last episode was about this. So I would encourage you to go check that episode out. But as I've done that, I've just come to sit and kind of think about like, what do I enjoy now as a grown up? um, I've always loved dancing. I've always loved music. I love like live music. I love like nightlife, but I don't necessarily like the club vibe. I just like the aura of like neon lights and dancing. And so how can I incorporate things like that into my daily life, right? So I'm not going to go out and go clubbing every single day. In fact, this weekend was the first time I went out clubbing or to a bar, and I don't drink at all. So this is like the first time in like over a year, maybe more. Maybe more. And unless you count like Coachella. I went to Coachella last year. But yeah, like I don't really go out to clubs because I am an introvert. If you listen to my podcast, you know that. And I don't really like the energy in clubs. A lot of people are just really zombied out, and it's like they're not there, and that's like completely opposite of what I'm trying to do right now. But I love to dance. I love like neon lights. I love that type of vibe. So I have LED lights, like little neon lights in my kitchen. And like around my TV that I got from Amazon, and it has like little buttons so you can change the lights and put it on like strobe mode or whatever. I put those on when my husband's not here and my son's not here because I co-parent. I put those on. Or if it's during the week and it's like after my little one's in bed and my like husband's doing his thing, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go dance for a little bit. And especially if I'm not feeling well, because I'll notice I don't want to do anything that I like when I don't feel well, and that's the symptom of depression. So sometimes I have to practice opposite action and like force myself to do it. But I will literally turn on these neon lights, and then my son has like this little astronaut projector thing that I got him, or that my husband got him, and I will put that on the ceiling, and I'll put like neon lights on YouTube. Literally, if you look up like neon cute lights or like orange lava lamp, like stuff like that, like ambiance videos on YouTube, there's so many like 10-hour looped videos of pretty graphics that you can put on. I put those on and I legit pretend like I am at the club or I'm in a performance, and I will dance for like an hour, 2 hours. For one, it's great exercise. So, like, from a physiological perspective, I feel better because I'm literally like releasing cortisol in my body. You can sweat cortisol out of your body, apparently. And secondly, it's something I love to do. I love to dance. So I enjoy it, and it helps my depression as well. So it's like a win-win, right? I'm practicing being present in the moment, but I'm also like doing something that's physically like helpful for my mental health and my depression. Because getting in movement can be hard for me sometimes because I'm a homebody. And so another thing that I've been trying to do is just like be in community and be in community with people that make me feel full, right? Because for a long time, especially as an introvert, I thought interacting with people was just exhausting and draining. But I've actually come to learn that it's the type of interactions, right? So for me, I'm someone that craves depth. And I don't mean this from a snobby perspective at all, because sometimes I actually wish that I could have more lighthearted conversations and just like actually enjoy that, but I don't. I don't. It's not for me. I can't only do surface level conversations, maybe for like the first 5 minutes that I meet you, maybe. But I love people that I can get like deep with right away. And it doesn't mean like we have to sit and like trauma bond and talk about all of our hardest life's experiences. Like, it doesn't even have to be like that, but it has to be something more than just like weather or shopping or sports, which I don't even watch sports. It has to be something more than that. And this is not a diss, or, I'm not trying to put shade on anyone who enjoys those things, because if you do, then that's great and you can find your people. But for me, I'm not interested in a lot of these things. So it feels like it's really hard to connect. And lately, I've been so lucky because I've been intentionally seeking out things that I know I like and finding people who are aligned. And so it's so much easier now for me to have these interactions that feel fulfilling to me and not draining, and to do things that allow me to go out and be in community and be social and want to be in the present moment, and not just like in my everyday mundane routines, which it can be really easy to disassociate when you have like a very similar day-to-day schedule. Like if you go to work at the same time, come home at the same time, talk to the same people, watch the same TV show, like if you do similar things every day, it could be harder. And I understand that not everyone has like a life where they can go out and just be spontaneous all the time. Right now, I freelance, so I have a little bit more flexibility, but I'm also a mom, so it can be hard. But like even in small ways, I try to find some way to switch it up. Like even on days where I'm not leaving my house, I know for me personally, I like micro learning. I like to learn. Uh, I know that sounds weird and nerdy, but I do. I like acquiring new information and just hearing something that I've never heard before. Like I really appreciate that, and it's one of the reasons why I love podcasts, not just having one, but listening to them. I listen to podcasts like every day. So sometimes I'll just be like, "Oh, I've never heard this before." So I'll just put a random podcast on YouTube and listen to someone that I've never heard before. Um, or I'll decide to like check out a new book. I recently got a library card because I literally haven't done that since like the 2000s. And I was like, libraries still exist. So why don't I just do that? I like to read. There's also like a library app. I think this is like everywhere in the US. I could be wrong, but it's called Libby. So you could literally like make a digital library card for free and just check out books. You do still have to wait for the digital copy on your phone, but you can just check out books for free. So sometimes I'll just randomly check out a new book, check that out. Um, and I've also been just trying to like go to more things that are aligned with my interests but aren't overwhelming since I do consider myself a very introverted person. And so I've been seeking out things like sound baths, which I've talked about. Like I love going to community meditations because you don't necessarily have to like talk to people the whole time. So that's nice for me. And I've been trying to get back into like hiking, especially because the weather here in Southern California is getting nicer. Um, so just like little things, it doesn't have to be like this huge drastic thing, but I notice that the more I do that, the more present I am. And I try to also like take a mental inventory of like places and things that I'm doing when I feel most present and most, I don't want to use the word alive. A lot of people say most alive, and I really think that we mean most present because we're alive regardless. So when we feel most like we want to be in that present moment because we're enjoying it so much is what I like to think of when people say I feel most alive. When I'm out somewhere dancing and it's not chaotic, of course, like I'm around people I love, that's fun. When I'm out at the beach, the ocean, I didn't grow up on a coast. I was landlocked as a kid, but I am so drawn to water. I love, 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 love being around open water. I'm always scared to go inside open water, but I love being around open water. So I love going to the beach and just staring at the waves and just sitting out and talking. I'm getting more into just like hanging out in parks too, or just like grassy areas nearby, or even just like going on a walk in my neighborhood. That's something I used to not feel safe enough to do, but now I live in a place that's I feel a lot safer here. And so it's something I've been trying to do. And just like those little changes, I'm noticing a huge difference. And again, it is a practice. Even now, I feel like I'm zoning out a little bit. So I do try to be really intentional about it, even if I am like doing something super mundane and boring. Like earlier today, I was cleaning. I'm listening to a podcast. And sometimes I do get immersed in like books and podcasts, but again, I as long as I'm doing something that's making me feel comfortable and I'm not like ruminating and I'm not overanalyzing myself or my flaws or things I need to work on, but as long as I know I'm still aware of it and I'm working on it, giving myself permission to have fun and invite more play. And I think some other ways that we could do this is just like trying to think of things that we enjoyed in our youth. Again, I love like anything that honors my inner child. I'm such a kid at heart. And so I love when I can find, and luckily I've been able to find other people um, my age, other women my age especially, who also love just honoring their inner child and like aren't afraid to just have fun and giggle and play. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but like the end of last year, I met some amazing friends, loved them so much, and we had like a little sleepover and it was so fun. And I had so much fun preparing for that because I didn't get to have sleepovers growing up and I've always wanted to. And I was like, listen, we are grown, we can choose what we want to do. That's like the whole point. It's the one good thing that we have about being adults, right? Is that we get to choose what we want to do. And I recently saw like some TikToks about like, oh, what are millennials doing? Because I'm 31, so I'm definitely like peak millennial. What are millennials doing to like heal or whatever? What's our thing? I don't know if that's what the TikTok was, but someone was like, we're regressing. We're like going back to like our childhood stuff, and that's like how we're de stressing. And I was like, I wouldn't even call that regressing. I don't think it's regressing. I think it's clever, and I think that it's incredibly healing, and we shouldn't even joke about it. Like, it's legitimately a seriously healing thing to do. I'm a huge like cozy gamer. I love just being able to take a little bit of time and go into Animal Crossing and build my little island. My island is super cute. I have like a 4-star island now. Yes, ma'am. I love Animal Crossing. I love Mario Kart. And don't even get me started on The Sims. I love Sims. And I think again, as long as everything you're doing is like in moderation and you're doing it because you genuinely enjoy it, I don't want to fall back into the trap of like, oh, I should be doing this or oh, I should be doing that. I should be No, like be present, allow yourself to do things you enjoy and have fun. And remember too, like this whole idea about like constantly improving ourselves and constantly being productive. It's really, I hate to be the one to say it, but it's really rooted in capitalism, right? And life is about actually living. And I think that a part of healing and a part of this journey is because we want to get to a place where we just genuinely enjoy life. And that's not to say you won't have like ups and downs, and there might not be like challenging times that are hard, but you have the tools and the skills now to work through those moments, and you want to be present. You have a life that you want to be present in, that you enjoy. That's the goal, right? And so if that's what we're working towards, it's something that we need to implement every day. We need to already start implementing that if we are at a space or at a point where we feel like we can. And so that's where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to do. I have like a list of things that I've been like taking a mental note of that I'd love to try. And I'm just reminding myself that as long as you're alive, it's never too late to try to do things that you really want to do or you've always wanted to do or that you love, especially if you're an adult. No one is around to tell you you can't do it. So if you like stuff that's considered quote unquote childish, that's on you. As long as you're not harming anyone and as long as you're not harming yourself. I encourage you to do it if it brings you joy and if you're still actually making sure you're taking that time to work on yourself, but everything in balance and moderation. If it's going to help you be present in the moment, I don't see anything wrong with it. And so that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm at. Right now, some things that I have on my list to try and some things that I've been doing. I mentioned like the sound bath meditations. Love that. And it's also really healing. Um, for fun, I do like karaoke at home. I'm thinking about getting like one of those cute like mics. I really want to go to like one of those ceramic classes where you paint like the plates and just make a bunch of cute little plates. I definitely want to have another adult sleepover. And another thing that I've been trying to plan is like a fairy tea party in the like in nature. And I looked it up and I saw that someone did this before on YouTube and I was like, "Oh my god, yes." It's such a clever idea. And there are like a few other things that I've been thinking about too, but I have like just a list of things that I still want to do and I still want to try. And I encourage you, if you struggle with being present and if you're struggling with depression and you're just trying to think of things that can make you feel better, even if it's something as simple as like watching your favorite like TV show. I'm a huge K-pop fan, and it's been a special interest of mine since I was like a teenager. And when I'm really depressed and stressed out and I don't want to go anywhere or talk to anyone, I legit will just spend like half a day watching K-pop when I can, when I'm not like, when I don't have like responsibilities of work or taking care of my son. But when I can, like, I will legit just spend hours rewatching my favorite K-pop videos. And that can be fun to me and relaxing to me. So it's whatever it looks like for you. We're all different, but I like would just encourage you to even like write down if that's helpful for you, like things that you enjoy or things that you feel like you would like or maybe you wanted to try but you haven't. Like so whether that be like pottery or dance class or whatever. Um I went to like a pole dancing class for the first time like last year. I don't even remember. Um And I loved it. I loved it, and it was something I always wanted to try, and I was just so happy that I actually did it. Like I actually tried something that I'd always thought about trying. And so those little boosts in morales are very underrated. And so I would just encourage you to do that. Just try. And if you're feeling like you're so low that you feel like zombied out and numb and apathetic, I think practicing opposite action helps a lot too. Um, like getting that steady flow of dopamine into our brains is so important. So the more you kind of force yourself into doing the opposite of what you want to do, the more you kind of build those habits and you kind of like get your brain used to it. It's kind of part of the way that I feel like I've become quote unquote a high functioning mentally ill person. I kind of hate that term, but I've always been somewhat of a high functioning, again, hate that term, person. And it's mostly just because I, for most of my life, didn't really have a choice. Like I still just had to do things to survive. I have no one else to take care of me. But that's the thing, like you can train your brain. We have neuroplasticity and your brain can change. So it's just about how we form those patterns. And the challenge is actually getting ourselves up to do those things. That's the hardest part. And it's something I still struggle with, especially when it comes to like movement. Like I can't do it if I don't enjoy it. And so if you're someone like me where you need a lot of motivation, you can't do things you don't enjoy. It's important to sit and reflect on like what you do enjoy and how you can incorporate that into your daily life if it's something that is healthy, right? So like I don't enjoy necessarily working out. Like I used to go to the gym and stuff like that, but I enjoy dancing. So dancing is how I work out primarily nowadays. I know I can also walk and like I know that I mentally feel better when I take a walk. So I try to get like a short walk in. But on days where I'm like I really don't feel like going for a walk, sometimes I'll just like walk around my apartment. Not even kidding. I'll just walk around. Or I'll park really far from the school when I drop my kid off and I'll just walk far. Um, so like just like those little things, those little habits that we could be incorporating. Um, but yeah, I'll leave you with that. Make a list of things you love, make a list of things you enjoy or things you think you would love but have never tried. And try to see where you can start incorporating these things into your life. And just practice being present with yourself, being present in the moment. If you're still feeling unsafe, then that's just something that I just hope you know that it is possible that you can work through that. It is possible that you can feel safe. This is coming from someone who for majority of my life did not feel that way. So I'm empathetic and I understand how hard it is. And it's something that I still consciously work on as someone who struggles with disassociation, who has been in psychosis, and it's really hard. So if it's something that you're dealing with, I just want you to know that it is hard. You're not alone. And I hope that at some point you can feel comfortable being in the present moment and that you can find things that bring you joy and that make you want to be in the present moment. And with that, I will wrap the episode up, but thank you all for taking the time to connect with me. This will be a video, so you'll see it on Spotify. You'll also see it on my YouTube channel, JustRere online. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I encourage you guys to connect with me on Instagram, on YouTube. I want to hear from people in the community, and my goal is ultimately to build a community both online and in person, a healing community and a safe space for people, especially people in BIPOC communities. And so, if that's something you feel like you need, then I encourage you to connect with me, please. And one announcement before I close this out, I will be in a BPD conference. It's a virtual BPD conference. I'll be leading or co-leading the BIPOC panel there with Emotions Matter. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Emotions Matter is a BPD nonprofit. They're based in New York. They work nationally in the United States and they advocate for people with BPD. They have a lot of support groups and resources on their website. And so I will have the link to Emotions Matter in my description. And they aren't sponsoring this at all, but I've just like collaborated with them on panels before. I found them at the BPD conference, virtual conference last year, and some great people in the community, like the BPD bunch, will be there. And last year, Molly from Back from the Borderline was there. I love her podcast. Her podcast I found before I was even diagnosed with BPD. I was diagnosed with bipolar before I was diagnosed with BPD, as many in the community are. Um, and it just, I can't even say in words how much that podcast helped me. Um, and so, yeah, there's so many amazing people in the BPD community online. So if you are looking for support and resources, I will have a few of those linked in my description. And I do hope that you know you're not alone and you find community, because that's been so healing for me. So, yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in. And until next time, bye.